He kōna ipurangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
When you put your hand in, your bird is going to peck you, and so you basically want him to bite your finger.
Seabird ecologist Biz Bell is giving me and a group of volunteers a crash course in how to turn ourselves into human bait for a black petrel, Tāko on the side of a forested mountain on Aotea-Great Barrier Island. The petrels aren't always to be found in their burrows. If you wait long enough, sitting beneath the forest canopy, a bird returning from sea might just crash land on your head.
Kia ora, nau mai haramai ki te ao hurahanga. Hello and welcome to Our Changing World. Ko Claire and Canon tēnei. Today we're on Aotea with RNZ in-depth reporter Kate Newton. At the end of January, she went to meet some of the special New Zealand seabirds that breed there, and the dedicated researcher who studied them for nearly 30 years. Here's Kate.
Oh wow, we really went too far. If you want some really good exercise, can I recommend the boardwalk stairs to the summit of Haraki Mata, Mount Hobson, the tallest peak on Great Barrier Island? Hello.
You went too far.
We just thought we'd get some extra steps in.
How far did you get?
Quite a long way up there. Oh. It's already been a steep climb, wending our way up a forested canyon of mixed podocarps and across a scrubby ridge under the hot January sun. But the reward for this effort is, hopefully, coming face to beak with some black petrels, or tāko as they're known to the local mana whenua, Ngāti Rehua. These gorgeous sooty seabirds and their very cute fluffy chicks only breed in New Zealand and used to be found on coastlines around the North Island and the top of the South Island. But their numbers have dwindled to just 2 colonies on Great Barrier Island and its sister island of Hauturu, or Little Barrier, and the petrels are classified as nationally vulnerable. Our Changing World last visited the colony a decade ago when Biz Bell, who's leading this trip too, told Alison Balance the total population of both breeding and non-breeding birds was about 15,000, a number that hasn't really changed since then. Biz and her family's company, Wildlife Management International, have now been surveying the colony for 29 years, and I wanted to know, how are the birds doing a decade on? What have she and her team learned in the intervening years? And what is it about these birds that have kept her coming back for nearly 3 decades? After my slight detour up to the summit, we're back on track. Or actually, off track. Our group of about a dozen volunteers bush-bashing our way along a shortcut to Black Petrel HQ, a Department of Conservation research hut just beneath the mountain top.
It is now just sort of meandering down, go across the slip face and then meandering down and then we're at the hut. We'll make it to the hut and have a sit down and a drink.
A drink and some very welcome dinner. It's early evening, but our day is just getting started. The birds are taking turnabout at the moment to guard their nest or go to sea to fish, and the changeover happens at night. While we wait, I've gathered round with a few other volunteers to get a head start on what we'll be up to.
Yeah. This is basically Biz's brain.
That's Cam Maclean, one of Wildlife Management International's staff members, talking us new arrivals through a map of the 500 study burrows we'll be checking.
So basically this is just how Biz walks the route.
Oh, okay.
But it's pretty good, like you just use it for like reference.
Does she use it for reference?
No. She doesn't.
Everybody laughs here. They say Biz has got this map in her head. And I say to people, oh, you go left at that tree and right there and the burrow entrance is there. But if you go 1 metre to the left, there'll be a hatch and it's deep, but the bird will sit to the left. And if you go past it, he'll ambush you and bite your wrist. And it depends on what burrow. But it's because I've been doing it for 29 years and these birds get into your blood. They're amazing. The mountain gets into your blood. This is an absolutely special place. It's an absolute privilege to be able to work here. And yeah, these birds, they will steal your heart.
Seabirds already ran in Biz's blood before she even saw her first black petrel. Her dad was Brian Bell, a career conservationist and another seabird guru who passed on his passion and knowledge to Biz and her siblings.
One of my earliest memories of seabirds was Dad having to rescue a wandering albatross on the shore of Lyall Bay Beach, because we grew up in Wellington, and he threw it in the back of the combi with all of us kids, and we drove it home, we fed it for a week and a half, and then we released it. And I can just remember thinking, this bird is bigger than my dad. All I could see was Dad's feet and this big bird coming towards us in the combi. And seabirds have been it ever since. Islands and seabirds are totally my thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
In the back of that combi van, what do you remember about that bird?
It was tired, it was beautiful, and it was huge. I mean, I was 5 or 6 at the time, and this was awesome.
And she remembers being wowed by watching it take off when they released it.
The fact that you watched it paddle on water and then run on water was awesome, and just take off. I mean, but great Wellington windy day and perfect weather, and it was off.
50 years later, what is it about the much smaller black petrels that's got under her skin?
They're just an amazing, all seabirds are amazing. Their feathers, the fact that they're waterproof, the fact that they are feisty, the fact that they're bumbling, crazy little things on land, but then you can go to sea and they're just mind-blowingly beautiful.
And they are incredible travellers. During the New Zealand winter, black petrels, tako ketai, remain out over the Pacific Ocean, travelling as far east as the coastal waters of Ecuador. From October, they begin arriving home to their burrows on Aotea.
Like, you see them at sea and you get your data and they're travelling incredible distances and diving beautifully, and then you come into the forest and they crash land and they waddle past you and they're absolutely kooky, and I just kind of love that about them.
That's Maria Dussler.
Master's student at Victoria University of Wellington. I've done quite a bit of deploying and retrieving devices up here on the black petrels, and it's wonderful that there's a whole team up here monitoring them every year, because it means I can come up for the incubation trip and deploy devices, and then come back and retrieve them off the same birds and the same burrows in the next trip, and collect data on their GPS tracks and their diving behaviour and whatnot, and then create a thesis out of it, and then here you go, there's my master's.
Maria's devices, which are about the size of a postage stamp, record the bird's location every 10 minutes and every time they dive. She's hoping to use this information to learn more about their foraging habits and how they might interact with any humans they encounter in the ocean.
This is my pride and joy, my GPS devices, which basically last indefinitely because I've got solar panels on the back.
Oh, cool.
And we tape it to the contour feathers on the back of the seabird, in a very finicky process involving a base plate, several layers of tape and some dental floss and some glue. Eventually it sticks on.
Maria's trying to get at one of the key questions that's arisen from the study. What is happening to the birds at sea?
I actually recorded a record depth of them diving to 38.5 metres, which is pretty damn impressive. And I'm also seeing if they are following fishing vessels, because they get caught a lot in longline fishery, so I can take logbook data within the New Zealand economic zone. And basically, you can see them following the vessel track. And then I wanted to see if their diving behaviour changed when they're around the fishing vessels, because that's quite linked to whether they're going to pursue the hooks and the bait and stuff and get caught. So it's a very conservation-focused masters.
On Aotea, on average, more than 70% of petrel parents manage to fledge a chick each year. But of the thousands of chicks that have been banded over the decades, only about 10% of them have ever been found again back at the colony. There are all sorts of possible reasons. It could be pollution, it could be climate change impacts, or even petrels being led astray by light pollution. One possibility is how they interact with longline fishing vessels. They're scavengers and really good at diving, and both of those things make them vulnerable to getting hooked. From October 2024, New Zealand brought in new longline fishing regulations that require fishers in our waters to use all 3 seabird mitigation measures that are recommended internationally. The first is using weighted hooks that drop quickly below the surface and out of easy reach for birds. The second is using Tory lines, which are effectively streamers that fly above the hooks. And the third is only setting lines at night, when the birds are presumed not to be fishing. One of the questions this team is interested in is whether this will make a difference for the petrels. Maria's sharing some of her data with Jamie Darby, a research fellow from University College in Cork, Ireland, who's in New Zealand for 2 years after learning about the project from other researchers.
This colony, this seabird colony, has produced quite a lot of science because it's really well monitored. Biz has put in such a shift. It's been 30 years next year, I think, of this monitoring project running. And that's really impressive because a lot of projects are quite short-lived. It's hard to get the momentum to keep something carrying on that long. That's evident as well, kind of in international research output. You have quite a lot of people know about the black petrels on Aotea.
Jamie had actually deployed his own devices, which could record even more information than Maria's GPS tags, including sources of light, how fast the birds accelerated in a dive, basically like a Fitbit for birds. But he was thwarted after the petrels decided to sit on their nests for longer than usual this season, steadily draining the batteries on Jamie's devices without going anywhere.
That often happens when you're tagging birds. They do something weird and you're kind of left there trying to scrabble a new plan because they've done something that no one's ever seen before. And it's really interesting and it's very frustrating and it's stressful, but it's also really cool.
I feel like you're getting trolled by a bird.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, why aren't you behaving normally? Please.
What Jamie's hoping to find out with the data he and Maria collect is whether that theory about petrels not diving at night holds up, or whether the artificial light from fishing boats might actually encourage the birds to scavenge where boats set their lines.
Long lines particularly are advised to set and haul at night time because it's thought that birds don't forage at night. But we know they do, so that's a little bit of a moot point, but we just wanted to see if that night setting in conjunction with other methods will actually be effective. And so the way we're doing that is looking at how they use light, whether you need to dim deck lighting to actually make that effective, or whether it'll actually just promote deeper diving anyway. So then when you set gear like lower in the water column, are they still going to be able to get to it because there's light from the vessel that kind of enables them to get down to baited hooks that then catch them and take them underwater.
Jamie's interested in what the birds are doing at sea, but the survey on Aotea is the key to what's happening to the birds overall.
Because these birds don't really come back until they're about 5 years old to breed, and then they only lay one egg per year for the duration of their lives, which can be kind of 40 odd years. It's really hard to detect changes in population, steep declines, unless you kind of have those long-term data, unless you're kind of on the ground kind of every year and seeing how each burrow is getting on. And seabirds face so many different threats that it's quite important to understand how they're getting on at the colony, because an awful lot of those threats happen at sea. So, getting caught in fishing gears, pollution, plastic ingestion, things like that. It's really hard to actually see that in person. So the best way of knowing how the population is getting on is coming back to a place year on year and just seeing how each individual is getting on. We've staked out a couple of burrows at night, which means that you're just sitting waiting for a bird to come back. And it sounds really dull, but you're actually seeing all their little social lives going on. So you have birds crashing in through the canopy of trees. They make quite a noise as they fall down. It's kind of an intense way to get home. And then as they get to the ground, you hear kind of partners calling out from these burrows, just wondering, are you home?
This visit to the colony is the second of 3 trips the research team makes every year. During the first visit, the team focused on adult birds returning to the colony from the Pacific, identifying any bird that already had bands, including chicks returning as adults to the colony for the first time, and banding any birds they picked up that weren't already part of the study. Biz says the second trip, though, is when things get really exciting.
And this trip in January, February is when it's peak egg hatching. So we're wanting to get the identification of both parents in the burrow and to make sure that the egg has hatched safely and start getting some really lovely chick pictures, cute chicks, very, very cute chicks at this time of year. And then we also do a little bit of night work and just to still try and capture any non-breeders that are hanging around, and also just a different time of the year to do night work to see if there's chicks coming back at a different time, just to make sure we're covering all our bases.
And so, with night falling on the mountain, we're arming ourselves with gloves, head torches, and a few other bits and pieces.
Did you say we needed whiteout, or was that for tonight?
Oh, we do need some twink, yes, you're right. I'll stick one in my pocket. Others can stick one in their pockets if they want.
The twink isn't because we're about to do our homework up in the bush, by the way. It's just a lo-fi and non-toxic, I promise, way to mark any birds we capture so we know who we've already bothered on this trip. The last of the light has gone, so we're carefully picking our way up the narrow track with head torches on. Here and there are gaps in the bush, and you can see the twinkle of riding lights on the yachts moored way below us in Port Fitzroy, one of Aotea's harbours. We're on our way to one of the birds' favourite spots to launch out to sea, a big rock on the side of a cliff. But we're also looking out for any birds we spot along the way.
Oh, hello, mate. Sorry, did I give you a hell of a fright? So he's actually twinked, so he is going to be banded. And then we just need somebody to read the band number.
The team used to have to look up information about the band numbers manually, but these days they have an app, so we can find out who we've just found on the track in real time.
It's a 10-year-old out of Barrow 65.
Oh, yeah, so 65's the corner Barrow.
And the male.
And it's male, yeah. So he's like, he's just like, you guys suck.
I'm quickly realising that we are absolutely surrounded by the colony.
That's one of our study burrows there. So the numbers are on cattle tags there. And this is our lovely mossy series of seats. And this is the launch rock. And so you can see the claw marks up that. So we've got this great picture of
their wings out.
Yeah, they put their wings out and then they use their claws and their bill to claw their way up, and then they sit there or sometimes climb a little higher, flap their wings a little bit and then just leap off. Watching them on the summit platform can be pretty amazing because you can hear them walk up the stairs. So it's like ding, 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 and then they'll sit for a bit, and then they'll practice, and then they'll sit for a bit. The chicks in particular, because they're not quite confident enough and things. But it's pretty amazing to watch them do their maiden flight and just disappear.
Disappear, and actually, often that's it. And while it would be nice to think maybe they've just found somewhere else to breed, the other islands in the Hauraki Gulf are also monitored, and Biz says there's been no sign of them. And that means that the number of petrels at the colony isn't growing, and may even be declining. The good news for the petrels is that for those who do make it back, life on the island seems to be going well for them generally. Even though they only lay one egg each season, most of those eggs not only hatch, they result in a chick fledgling.
Breeding success on a good year is about, well, our average is 72%. On a really good year, it's about 80. On a very bad year, it's 57. Some are infertile. Some, the chicks just die in the embryo stage, from anything from small embryos to die on pipping because they just run out of energy, can't do it, that sort of thing. So yeah, depends on the chick.
There are some real success stories among the colony.
We've got one super burrow at the top where the parents of that burrow have had 17 successful breedings, and of those 17, 12 of their chicks are now back breeding at the colony, and one of those chicks is now has successfully bred and is now breeding back in that burrow and has also had chicks of his return. So that burrow has 3 generations back here, which is pretty damn awesome.
After our nighttime excursion and a few uncomfortable hours sleep in bunks and tents, we've woken up to a beautiful morning on the mountain, and Biz reckons it's time to go looking for petrel chicks. She pulls out a map.
Yeah, so at the moment we live here, that's our little hut. Okay, so we'll come across the track, then go out onto the boardwalk, and then basically we're walking up this boardwalk series, all the way up, zigzag, up a million stairs to the summit platform. So the summit's up here, so we've got loads of burrows right around the summit.
At each burrow, a volunteer or team member plunges their arm in.
Oh yeah, someone's in there.
Somebody's home.
The bird is carefully extracted and identified.
Put it against your chest. Just
Good job.
Yep, a lovely job.
Oh, it's quite a cool band. 29664.
And then they check for
664.
any fluffy chicks.
We should have a bird on an egg in here. Oh, or a chicken. A little baby chick. Oh. That's a chick honk.
The petrels aren't always terribly happy to see us. So it's a quick ID and then back to the burrow. It's an exciting time of the year to be checking the burrows, but sometimes the petrels receive other uninvited visitors. Cam Maclean has just found a broken eggshell outside one of the burrows with just a single black downy feather clinging to it.
I don't know if it's just hatched or if it's been predated.
Do you think?
Because it's outside a burrow that had a pipping egg, now it has nothing in it.
No, that's predated.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think it was?
That's rats.
The eggs and chicks are normally carefully guarded on the nest by one parent while the other goes to sea to find food before the two swap over. But rats and feral cats will take their chances. And so the Department of Conservation has a heavy predator control program here and elsewhere on the island, including trialling new types of traps.
So that's an A24. So that's one of the self-setting traps, rat and stoat traps. So they've been put out, and as you've walked up, you will have seen several lines that are marked with pink tape, pink triangles. And so they've got 4 that circle the summit, and it's a trial to see if that level of control helped reduce the rat numbers and helped sustain the robins and the tomtits and the kakariki up here. And then in between those lines, they've got monitoring lines which are out with tracking tunnels and things to then see what the numbers of rats were before and after. And they're actually doing pretty well for shippies. Curie, not so much.
Because of these ongoing trapping efforts, it's only a few chicks and eggs that fall victim to predators on land each year. So it's still that mystery of all the things that might be happening at sea that's really important to solve. And that's why, as well as researchers, volunteers and nosy journalists, Biz also invites people from commercial fishing companies to join her on the survey trips most years.
They're a little hesitant to begin with, a bunch of scary scientists, and hopefully we relay that pretty quick. It's just the idea of them understanding suddenly that these seabirds are also just fishermen. So they go to sea, catch some fish and squid, bring them back for their family here, and then swap over and do the same thing. And often that is a real light bulb moment for the fishermen when they realise, we're doing the same job. And it's like, yes, and these seabirds show you where the fish are sometimes, and they share that knowledge with you. And it's like, man, yeah, we should look after them. They're helping us, and it's so good. And so, yeah, and it's also a way for us to help show them how to handle them, so if they do accidentally catch one and it's live and they want to release it, it's how to hold it and how to disentangle it either from the net or the hook, and then, release it safely back to sea.
And this is an international effort, because these little seabirds don't just stick to New Zealand waters. When they leave the colony around this time of year, they travel right across the Pacific. And even though our fishing regulations might be international best practice, we can't control what other fishing fleets in the Pacific or on the high seas might be doing. So the name of the game is collaboration, with other governments, with scientists in other countries, with the global fishing industry, anyone who might have an interest in helping protect petrels and other seabirds. A couple of months after our trip to Great Barrier, I caught up with Biz again at the Oceania Seabird Symposium at the University of Auckland. Here, researchers from around the Pacific shared information about the work they're doing to identify, monitor and protect seabird species in their own waters. Biz says anything they and others share at gatherings like this can help with everyone's understanding.
Takakitai breed and are endemic to New Zealand, but they migrate across the Pacific to Ecuadorian waters, feeding up and down the Humboldt Current. So our chicks leave Aotea, go straight across there by themselves, and then set up there for a couple of years to doing this gap year. And we don't understand what's going on over there. We don't have eyes over there. So now we're trying to work with local researchers to understand what they're seeing in their waters.
Like American Bird Conservancy researcher Giovanni Suarez Espin.
He's a research scientist, he does a lot of work at sea there, and he's monitoring black petrels there because it's also a special species for them. It's a long time in their waters, they're interacting with their fishes all the time, and we want to know what they can do to help us understand what's going on in their waters. We put satellite transmitters so we know the route the chicks go to get to South American waters, but we don't actually know what they do when they get there. And what we'd really like to do is go over to Ecuador, get out on some of these vessels, catch some birds at sea, put some loggers on and get some tracks of how they behave in those waters, where they go, up to Galapagos, down towards Chile, across Ecuadorian waters, and see what happens.
Biz's hope is that reaching out across the Pacific will not just help the team find some of the answers to their own questions, it might also help protect the petrels beyond New Zealand waters.
We've got great mitigation practices here. The fishermen are really trying not to catch seabirds here, and we're basically building those relationships with researchers and fishermen over in Ecuador through both high-level government relationships but also personal relationships with fishers and with scientists to try and get that sort of mitigation happening over there as well.
When I spoke to her at the conference, Biz had just got back from the third and final visit to the colony this season, where things look on track to be an average season, so a breeding success rate of around 70%. Over the last few months, those tiny, fluffy chicks we found in the burrows have been morphing into gangly teenagers ready for their first flight. Biz says a small gap of perfect weather meant the research team could race round all the burrows, checking the condition of every chick they found, and crucially, banding them in the hope they'll return.
So we've got a whole range of fluffy little chicks who are getting there, and chicks who are fully feathered and getting ready to practice to get out to sea. So a lot of really good condition chicks this year, which is really pleasing, lots of really fat chicks. And they've got a few more weeks and then they'll be jumping off the rocks.
The longer the team can keep the main study going, the more they can find out, and the greater the chance of answering that crucial question, just where do the birds go? And Bizbel hopes it will keep going for another 20, 30, maybe even 50 years, because, she says, they're still learning from these bumbling, beautiful birds.
We find something new every year. So, we don't know enough about these birds yet, even though we've studied them for nearly 30 years. These birds are absolutely magic, and, I will come back as long as I possibly can.
Thanks to RNZ in-depth reporter Kate Newton for that story. Kate spoke to Biz Bell and Cam Maclean from Wildlife Management International, to Maria Dussler from Te Heranawaka, Victoria University of Wellington, and to Dr. Jamie Darby from University College Cork and Waipapa Taumataro, the University of Auckland. Thanks also to the other wildlife management staff and volunteers that helped out on the survey. Kate's travel to Aotea was funded by WWF New Zealand, the World WideFund for Nature. This episode was produced by Kate, with help from me, Claire Kincannon, and Ellen Rikers is Our Changing World assistant producer. Sound engineering was by Phil Benj. Kate also wrote an article about the black petrel study, and we'll link it in the show notes for this episode. Tēnā koe I whakarongo mai, thank you so much for listening. Have a great week. Kia pai, te wiki.